Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to talk about the 1979 science fiction film Time After Time, which was written and directed by Nicholas Meyer. It starred Malcolm McDowell, Mary Steenburgen, and David Warner. In some ways, this movie is a fun throwback to the genre where it's really playing with the mythology of the time machine and H.G. Wells. So, the setup of the film is that we begin in the Victorian era, and we have Malcolm McDowell as H.G. Wells, who we meet, who was very idealistic, had a utopian view of the future, and for his time, held progressive views on politics, on gender, many things, and so he was, definitely famous for his science fiction books and his lectures and his writing, many things. The film has the premise that Wells knew Jack the Ripper, okay, or was unknowingly, Jack the Ripper was in his circle of friends, who's played by David Warner. Of course, I'm not someone who is well versed at all in the Jack the Ripper investigations or the history. I know they were not able to solve the crimes back then in the 1890s, but that's the fictional setup of the film. And there's a great scene at the beginning where they're playing chess, and H.G. Wells can never defeat Jack the Ripper in chess, and they have a great exchange about that anyway. So it's also revealed, like in the Time Machine movie for 1960, that Wells has a time machine, and Jack the Ripper gets a hold of it and goes ahead into the future, and then H.G. Wells has to use the machine to get back to the future as well. And the science is a bit wonky as in time travel movies, but in this one, you just kind of go with it. But long story short, they both end up in 1979 San Francisco. And that's great too, where this film was shot on location throughout San Francisco, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers just the year before. And this film also uses the city as a character. And Malcolm McDowell soon discovers that he learns that his friend is indeed Jack the Ripper, and he is wreaking havoc in San Francisco. Meanwhile, there's a romance in this movie as well, where he meets the Mary Steenburgen character, who she works at a bank, and they hit it off well. And in time, she kind of shows him, teaches him about the future and how things work. And there's a great theme in the film where Wells is upset that his vision of the future hasn't really come to pass. Like, there's a scene where he is flipping through a TV, or Jack the Ripper is flipping through a TV, and he is seeing all the violence that happens in the world. He learns about the world wars, and that civilization did not go the way he had hoped, and that's a great theme in the movie. And yet the Mary Steenburgen character, she is an activist. She's very much of women's liberation, and in some ways is sort of what Wells was hoping the roles of women would be in the future. So it's like there's a mix where some things in the future he's glad about, and other things the violence in particular he's not too thrilled about. So the film becomes a cat and mouse movie between McDowell and Warner as Warner starts committing crimes in San Francisco and things like that. So it's there's some humor throughout the movie. There's a lot of social commentary, but it sounds like a dark movie, but it's really a light-hearted movie of its time, and it's really a throwback to an earlier era of science fiction movies. Like, the music score was done by Miklos Roska, who had been around since the early day, the golden age of Hollywood, and Meyer asked him to come out of retirement to compose the score for this movie. So it really has a score that's evocative of old Hollywood movies, and that's kind of the part of the retro charm of the movie as well. The acting's great. Malcolm McDowell is really good. Kind of seeing him play a, I guess just a more of a good person, let's just say, because and even on the commentary track, McDowell talks about, well, that's why this movie was attractive to him, because he could just play a decent person, which he hadn't really done up to this point. And yeah, so, but everyone's really good in this movie. You know, right now, talking about time passing, it's just a great time capsule of the 70s as well, and how the film deals with various issues of the time period as well, but not with a cynical touch at all. Though, with, you know, Meyer does it with there's almost this romanticism throughout the movie about time and time and passing and hopes and dreams and all that type of thing. So it's the movie's a lot of fun on that level. Of course, Mary Steenburgen will return to a time travel movie with the third Back to the Future film. So she would return there. Nicholas Meyer would return to time travel. He helped write Star Trek 4, the fourth Star Trek movie, which they go back to the 1980s in that film. So there's just a really notable entry into the time travel genre of science fiction. So yes, those are my thoughts on Time After Time. Thanks for watching.